After the separation, my ex-wife became consumed with me. We need to end this marriage. Here's $100 million. Marcus is returning. My wife, Victoria Sterling, pushed the divorce papers across the mahogany table toward me. Time seemed to freeze. I'd been pulled into some fictional universe, cast as the pathetic backup husband in a loveless marriage of convenience narrative. According to how this tale was meant to unfold, I was destined to be a spineless fool who desperately clung to Victoria, a stunning woman, the composed and distant CEO commanding a business empire. Plus, I received $100,000 monthly just for bearing her surname. Who'd turn down such an arrangement? Yet at this moment, I wanted nothing more than to escape. 3 years of contractual matrimony, and I'd never been allowed genuine intimacy. All because her heart belonged to another man. Marcus Bennett. To her merit, she maintained ethical boundaries. She wouldn't betray me physically, but emotional infidelity remains betrayal nonetheless. I couldn't truly protest. This was a business arrangement. She'd fulfilled her obligations. Slap. 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 I struck my own face 3 times, mentally berating myself. This is what happens when you waste time reading trashy online fiction. This is your punishment, playing the pathetic husband, the foolish cuckold whose only defense is a weak, I don't care anymore. How utterly humiliating. This wasn't even a redemption narrative. The name Victoria Sterling had never been associated with remorse. Even if regret ever touched her heart, she'd rather perish than acknowledge it. A groveling ex-spouse. Impossible. Victoria Sterling doesn't grovel. What's wrong? Are you wallowing in self-pity? Victoria's icy mockery yanked me back to reality. You might as well attempt the whole, playing hard to get, routine, Adrian. It would at least be entertaining. Divorce papers. Fine, I'd sign them. If divine intervention tried stopping me, I'd still sign this very day. Victoria, I'll sign, but only under one condition. She smirked, sliding her silk robe off her shoulders. You want one final encounter? You haven't earned it. She tossed the garment at my face, releasing an intoxicating wave of perfume. In that instant, every masculine instinct roared to life. Victoria, you impossibly beautiful and maddening woman, alone in this room with me, and you dared such provocation. I steadied myself. I wouldn't force anything. The romance stories I'd been absorbed into featured powerful women who inexplicably lost all intelligence around male protagonists. But this was reality now. Even though born from fiction, this world operated under real rules. One scream from her would bring security rushing in. This wasn't fantasy. I threw the robe onto the floor and ground it beneath my shoe, a pathetic attempt to insult the untouchable CEO. Victoria merely rolled her eyes. Sign it already. Stop wasting time. The ice queen in public, yet at home before me, she was crude. I was her contractual spouse, but also her servant. You don't respect a servant's dignity, do you? In fairness, despite her arrogance, she'd never truly degraded me. No physical abuse, no demands that I kneel, no forcing me to impersonate her precious Marcus. She maintained a baseline of decency. But over 3 years of cohabitation, she'd grown comfortable commanding me, washing her delicate garments, providing massages, drawing her baths. I could observe, but never touch. 3 years without consummating our marriage. Pathetic. But circumstances had changed. I was no longer that spineless fool. I picked up the pen. The agreement's terms were already etched in my memory. $100 million cash, a waterfront villa, 2 luxury vehicles, and several commercial properties. The original version of me hadn't signed because he believed he loved her. I didn't. And with compensation like this, I'd sign from my deathbed if necessary. Adrian Cross. I scrawled my signature and pressed my thumbprint onto the document. Excellent. A subtle smile touched Victoria's lips, genuine appreciation flickering in her gaze. Not bad, Adrian. Now, what's your condition? Anything except physical intimacy. Victoria remained untouched by any man. Her strict upbringing and personal code maintained her virtue, at least physically. I was about to demolish her idealistic notion of love. With the papers signed, we were finished. I no longer needed to accommodate her every whim. I retrieved my phone. I have something to show you. You simply need to promise you'll watch it with me. Victoria was like royalty. Her word was absolute. She valued her integrity above everything else. She nodded. You have 10 minutes. I called her assistant. Reynolds, I need contact information for your specialist. The CEO wants me to have it. There was a pause on the line. You have 1 minute, Victoria's expression hardened. What are you planning? The specialist was the type of fixer the elite kept available, someone who handled problems existing outside legal boundaries. If I'd ever attempted to force myself on Victoria, I would have been handed over to them and torn apart. I remained silent, waiting. Moments later, a number appeared on my phone. Simultaneously, Victoria's phone rang. It was Reynolds. She answered, listened, and simply stated, I understand. It was a Chicago number. I dialed it on speaker. A rough voice answered, seemingly aware of my identity. Mr. Cross, what can I do for you? This didn't surprise me. Technically, I remained Victoria's husband. 10 million, I stated. I want everything you have on Marcus Bennett from his time in London. Focus particularly on his security personnel. The large one. The voice hesitated. Is Mrs. Sterling present? Victoria's voice turned glacial. Make it 20 million. Do exactly as he requests. You have 10 minutes. After disconnecting, she scoffed. You won't possess such authority much longer. And did you genuinely believe I haven't investigated Marcus? He completed his graduate degree at Columbia. He's one of Silicon Valley's most promising investors. And most importantly, for the past 3 years, just like me, he's been completely faithful. Hearing her carefully enunciate those words, I couldn't contain my laughter anymore. Forget that I'd seen every inch of her body while assisting with her baths. Did she truly believe Marcus was that virtuous? Others might remain ignorant, but I knew the truth. I came from the world where his story was already written. 10 minutes won't be long, I said. Victoria, you're in for quite a revelation. With that, I hurried to the bathroom and retrieved the basin I typically used for her foot soaks. Why isn't there water in it? She asked, confused. I rolled my eyes. We were divorcing. Only a fool would still be providing foot care. I was retrieving it because I sensed she'd soon need to be sick. She clearly understood. She released a cold laugh. $1 million. One final time. I was happy to oblige. 10 minutes passed swiftly. Her feet were soaking, and the phone rang. I was massaging her arches. I wasn't protesting. It was a $500,000 massage. For that compensation, I'd use my tongue if requested. This arrangement wasn't terrible. Unfortunately, she wanted the divorce. And I refused to be betrayed. A voice emerged through the speaker. Mr. Cross, your timing is impeccable. A genuine sixth sense. Would you prefer a video recording or a live feed? I wanted the live feed naturally, but didn't wish to spend additional money. Victoria, for whom millions were insignificant, stated flatly, at 10 million for the live feed. The voice immediately turned respectful. I'll send Mr. Cross the connection link. Moments later, a request appeared on my messaging app. I accepted, and the video call connected. One glance made my stomach turn. Victoria leaned in to observe, but I instinctively slapped the phone face down. Damn it. My body on some primal level still wanted to shield her. That impulse needed to end. Victoria, this live feed is explicit. If you watch this, it'll leave permanent psychological damage. Move aside, she snapped, snatching the phone. Her eyes locked onto the screen, and she froze completely. It was daytime in London. A dimly lit room. On a large bed, two figures were intimately entwined, one pale-skinned, one dark-skinned. The positions were creative, unconventional. The feed was grainy, recorded secretly through a window, the camera peeking through partially closed blinds. But for anyone familiar with that pale body, identification was unmistakable. Victoria certainly recognized her first love. Her hand clenched around the phone so tightly I could hear the plastic creaking, threatening to shatter. Yet she continued watching. Why was she still watching? Did she enjoy this? God, she was disturbed. My first instinct was to flee Chicago immediately. But before departing, I needed to deliver some verbal blows. I had to make this worth the investment. Well, Victoria, is this your great love? Is this what you've been pining for? Completely faithful, you said. You spent all that energy investigating the women surrounding him, but did you ever consider checking the men? Your golden boy doesn't have a girlfriend, Victoria. He has a boyfriend. A large black boyfriend. Are you surprised? Are you thrilled? I taunted her for a full 3 minutes, but she didn't react. Just remained frozen. Finally, as though her consciousness had just returned to her body, her voice emerged raw and shredded, like it had been dragged over broken glass. Adrian, help me. It struck me then, she wasn't mesmerized. She was paralyzed with shock. Her body had completely locked up. I wanted to laugh, but didn't dare. I couldn't pry her fingers from the phone. The tension had transformed her muscles into stone. It required several prolonged moments of massaging her hand before I could retrieve it. I ended the call, saved a brief clip, uploaded it to my private cloud storage, sent it to an anonymous account, then erased all traces. Only then did I help her onto the bed, resuming the massage to restore circulation to her limbs. This might be the final time I ever touched this soft, fragrant body. What a tragic waste. That video was going to inflict tremendous psychological damage on Victoria. It might transform her into someone who despised men, or perhaps someone indiscriminate in her pursuits. Or maybe she'd retreat entirely, living as a solitary recluse for the remainder of her life. But I harbored no regrets. She had mocked my devotion, so I would destroy hers. Equal retribution. Now we were balanced. The instant she regained bodily control, she sat upright and vomited directly onto me. I had no time to react. I was covered head to toe in her sickness. Perfect accuracy. Victoria, what the? I stopped. The woman before me was crying. Victoria Sterling, the untouchable, powerful CEO who controlled the livelihoods of 100,000 people, was crying. I fell silent and began cleaning. I prepared a hot bath, removed the soiled clothing from her body, and carried her to the tub. While she soaked, I showered in front of her. It was the first time she'd ever seen me unclothed. I thought the sight of a man's body might trigger her sickness again. But she simply stared, her eyes vacant, watching me, tracing the contours of my form with her gaze. I finished, dressed in fresh pajamas, and returned to cleaning the room before washing her. It was a routine I knew intimately. The CEO frequently returned home intoxicated from business dinners, a mess of vomit and tears. I'd witnessed her at her absolute worst numerous times. In that regard at least, I had advantages over those other unfortunate souls in contractual marriages who never even held their wife's hand. But honestly, even when originating from a goddess, vomit remains disgusting. In that condition, who possesses energy to contemplate anything else? By the time I'd cleaned her completely, she'd vomited 3 additional times until only yellow bile remained. She must have been mentally replaying the image of Marcus. I placed her in bed, and she'd already fallen asleep. I carried her to her own bedroom and gazed at her one final time. This was probably our ending. No words, no farewell. I slipped away like a phantom. I departed from my own room carrying 2 suitcases filled with the spoils of my 3-year campaign, custom-tailored suits, watches, cufflinks, and shoes. All gifts from her. As for the money and property, Victoria wouldn't renege on her word. Reynolds would probably contact me tomorrow. I owned a modest 3-bedroom apartment approximately 15 miles from Victoria's villa, purchased with savings accumulated over the past 3 years. Victoria knew about it, but I also understood her pride would never permit her to appear at my door. Logically, I should have accepted the money and relocated far away. But the thought of arriving in an unfamiliar city with that much cash felt like painting a target on my back. Better to remain in Chicago. I could still utilize the lingering shadow of my connection to Victoria to maintain a quiet existence. And in several years, when Sterling Industries inevitably collapsed, I could vanish. Then I slept like the dead and woke at 10 o'clock in the morning. Life without attending to Victoria's needs was blissful. I activated my phone. Dozens of missed calls and messages. All from Sofia Martinez, Victoria's best friend. Not a single call from Victoria herself. Of course not, the heartless woman. All those trashy novels about regretful CEOs pursuing their ex-spouses were fiction. A woman as proud as Victoria would rather perish than lower herself. Well, I wouldn't either. So I deactivated my phone again. In 30 days, I'd meet her to finalize the divorce proceedings, and that would conclude everything. But life doesn't always cooperate. Sofia Martinez found me. Adrian Cross, you worthless piece of garbage. What did you do to Victoria? Looking at her, I experienced a wave of familiarity. The person I used to fear most wasn't Victoria, but this woman standing before me. Don't let her petite frame deceive you. Sofia was a force of nature, a compact hurricane. Anyone else could call me spineless, and I'd respond angrily. But from her, I simply had to accept it. A year into my marriage, Sofia had gotten Victoria intoxicated and deposited her into my bed, a deliberate setup. And what did I do? I simply held her while she slept. Nothing more. From that day forward, Sofia dismissed me as completely worthless and never attempted matchmaking again. Adrian, what did you do to her? Why does she vomit every time Marcus calls? Why does she retch at the mere mention of his name? And why, when she hears your name, does she not get sick, but look like she wants to murder you? 3 questions in rapid succession. I had no idea how to respond. Sofia was the most loyal friend I'd ever witnessed. A genuine ride-or-die companion. All the best friends in every television drama combined couldn't match her devotion. Later, when Victoria's company faced bankruptcy, it was Sofia who helped her rebuild from nothing. They were the kind of friends who'd last a lifetime. But if I showed her the video, revealed the truth, would she be disgusted by Victoria? Would she feel contaminated by association? Marcus's particular preference was that disturbing. Talk, or I swear I'm going to start swinging. Seeing her raise her fists, I quickly threw my hands up in surrender and made a pathetic sound. Oh, you think this is amusing? Her fist, the size of a dinner roll, finally connected. It felt like being struck by hail. It somewhat hurt. 5 minutes later, a winded Sofia tossed a black card at me. 800,000. You've got 9 more of those coming. $100,000 per punch. Totally worth it. Now talk. What did you do? Did you perform some disgusting act on her? I considered it and decided to simply tell her. I was finished with these wealthy, crazy people. Sofia, last night I made Victoria watch a live stream about Marcus. And afterward, she started vomiting excessively. As I spoke, I spotted 2 small figurines on a display shelf. I grabbed them and recreated the explicit pose for her. Well, you understand the picture. One was pale, one was dark-skinned. You comprehend. As everyone knows, women possess vivid imaginations, and what they visualize is frequently far more graphic than reality. I don't know what scene materialized in Sofia's mind, but she clasped a hand over her mouth and bolted for the bathroom. She remained in there for an extended period. Another casualty. Sofia dragged me to the hospital. Victoria possessed a type of emotional purity, a mental fastidiousness. Marcus understood this. Superficially, he'd maintained his virtue in London, refusing advances from all women. Victoria believed her ideal man was preserving himself for her. She never imagined that while he didn't maintain a girlfriend, he did maintain a very intimate bodyguard. That live stream had become Victoria's waking nightmare. The memory alone was sufficient to induce sickness. She couldn't eat. Anything she attempted came right back up. She developed a fever. She required hospitalization. When I entered the private room, I observed her lying there like a broken doll. A pang of sympathy struck me, but I immediately crushed it. I adopted a cold smile. What has made you so miserable? Tell me everything. I could use entertainment. Victoria didn't even possess energy to argue. Just stared past me. Sofia, however, was displeased. She grabbed my ear and twisted forcefully. I brought you here to help her, you bastard. Say one more mocking word and you can return my money. I grinned. Take my money? You'd have to extract it from my cold dead hands. It's a psychological condition. What am I supposed to do? Go retrieve Marcus and bring him here. At the sound of his name, Victoria instinctively gagged. But after a day without eating, only a small amount of clear fluid emerged. Adrian, just leave, she whispered. And remember, never speak that name in front of me again. If you do, I'll have you handed over to the specialists. I felt wronged. What had I done? I'd warned her before showing her the video. Did she genuinely want to destroy me over this? Sophia sighed beside me. She hasn't eaten all day. The suite has a small kitchen. Can you prepare something she enjoys? The hospital was owned by the Sterling family. This VIP suite was superior to most five-star hotel accommodations. I contacted the facility manager, and 10 minutes later, fresh ingredients arrived. Lobster bisque. I added a portion of caviar to perfect the flavor. I gently poached the fish roe, then painstakingly removed the delicate membrane from each egg. Sophia observed me, her expression softening. Victoria understands how good you've been to her, you know. She just doesn't know how to appreciate it, and she's so proud. She'll never admit she's wrong. Even when she feels regret, she trailed off. Without me, you two would have been finished ages ago. Don't worry, I've compensated you. Honestly, I wasn't even certain I wanted to remain with Victoria anymore. The social class difference between us was enormous. I felt insecure, paranoid. Our marriage lacked foundation. Today, it was the ghost of a first love. Tomorrow, it could be her attractive young assistant. And subsequently, some university student she decides to mentor. The classic CEO romance scenarios, the one who escaped, the male assistant, the university protege, the adoring mentee. And a worthless husband. Victoria already had one checked off, and I wasn't worthless. At minimum, I wouldn't permit myself to be betrayed. The bisque was prepared. I allowed it to cool slightly before delivering it to her myself. Her expression remained numb, but the rich aroma seemed to restore her to reality. Thank you. Then, from habit, she opened her mouth, anticipating me to feed her. Whatever. The wealthy get their preferences. I wasn't going to argue with someone ill. I fed her spoonful by spoonful. After 2 generous bowls, Victoria finally appeared to be rejoining the living. I decided to depart. I'll see you at the courthouse in 30 days. Then I paused at the door. By the way, Victoria, a storm is approaching. Is Sterling Industries prepared for it? How much longer do you believe the 5-year-old secret buried beneath the Bayshore Heights project can remain hidden? Without awaiting a response, I pushed the door open and departed, my exit clean and final. As someone who understood how the narrative was meant to unfold, I hadn't intended to involve myself in Victoria's bankruptcy. But presently, we remained connected. The divorce wasn't finalized. That $100 million check hadn't cleared, and the properties weren't in my name. According to the original storyline, Marcus was scheduled to arrive in Chicago this evening, and in 2 days, he would begin targeting me. The Bennett family was also a major power in Chicago. For now, I still required Victoria's protection. After I departed, my words left Victoria stunned. The secret of that land transaction was known only to a handful of senior executives at Sterling Industries. How did Adrian know? What was he implying? Was someone planning to exploit that secret to destroy the company? Gradually, Victoria regained her composure. That secret alone wasn't sufficient to demolish Sterling Industries. The company had its share of buried mistakes from its years of expansion. Her father and she had been working to rectify things, but mistakes, even when corrected, leave traces. They wouldn't survive a comprehensive investigation. Sophia, I need to leave here, she stated. Adrian's correct. A storm is coming. Sophia didn't know the details of the Bayshore Heights secret, and she didn't inquire. But observing Victoria's urgency, she understood someone was targeting them. The simplest method to destroy a fortress is from within. Victoria was the perfect target. Over the years, countless men had attempted to approach her, employing every manipulation technique imaginable. What they didn't understand was that powerful families possessed their own methods of handling such schemes, especially the old cliché of a staged rescue. Wealthy families were paranoid about that. You attempt to play hero, and they'll investigate your family history for 18 generations. Perhaps only in cheap dramas did people still believe the "save my life, I'll marry you" routine. Sophia had been about to comment on the suspicious timing of Marcus's return, but remembering Victoria's violent reaction to his name, she restrained herself. "Victoria, I think you should ask Adrian to return. After what he said and what he did yesterday, he's not a spineless fool. He genuinely cares for you." A flicker of warmth crossed Victoria's icy gaze, but her tone remained cold. "I know he's capable, but he can't return. Not yet. The only way he's safe is if he remains outside, separated from the Sterling family." Sophia's eyes widened in understanding. "So you're divorcing him to protect him?" Victoria paused. It was a convenient excuse, but she disdained dishonesty. "That's partially true. The other part is I genuinely still had feelings for that person. Now, I think it was just nostalgia for my youth. The saying about wisdom and love is accurate. You're always pursuing what you can't possess, and you ignore the person who loves you most, right beside you. If Adrian wants to leave, I'll permit it." Sophia stomped her foot in frustration. That was Victoria indeed, proud to a fault. Back at Sterling Industries headquarters, Victoria's mind was in turmoil. She understood she was ill. Before she could even begin working, her first instruction to her assistant Reynolds was sharp and clear. "Schedule an appointment with Dr. Elena Rivera at Chicago Mind and Wellness. And from now on, the core security team is to be exclusively female. The second and third perimeters can include men. My drivers are to be female, and no men are permitted in my office. Also, if that person from London returns, he is not to approach within 100 yards of me." Reynolds recorded the instructions, her mind reeling in shock. What had happened to the CEO? It sounded like extreme misandry, so severe that she couldn't even tolerate proximity to men. As for that person, after 5 years as her executive assistant, Reynolds knew exactly whom she meant. She never imagined she'd witness the day the CEO refused to see him, banned him from even approaching. What was this new strategy? After delivering her instructions, Victoria opened a file on her desk, but her thoughts remained on Adrian's warning. The Bayshore Heights project had been developed 5 years ago. The secret was buried deep beneath a skyscraper. Now, who would exploit that to attack them? She knew Adrian. She understood he wouldn't deceive her about something like this. "The calm before the storm," she whispered. At Chicago International Airport, Marcus Bennett disembarked from the plane and frowned. The person he expected to see wasn't present. Something was wrong. He and Victoria had agreed yesterday that she would meet him. His calls before boarding had gone unanswered. He'd assumed she was planning a surprise, not that he'd be left standing here alone. Was it that contract husband of hers refusing to cooperate with the divorce? Marcus released a cold laugh. The leading man was back on stage. Did the understudy genuinely believe he could remain? The audacity. He retrieved his phone. "It's me. Find out where Victoria Sterling is located." Chicago was a large city, but also a contained community. The elite circles all dined, socialized, and celebrated at the same handful of locations. Soon, Marcus's phone rang. "What? You're telling me Victoria is pregnant?" The voice on the other end was frantic. "That's impossible. She told me her husband has never even touched her intimately. Morning sickness. It's severe. She's in the hospital." Marcus disconnected and in a fit of rage smashed his phone against the ground as though he were shattering Victoria and her fraudulent husband into countless pieces. At 8 o'clock that evening, at the exclusive Skyline Palace Ballroom, the patriarch of the Montgomery family was celebrating his 80th birthday. Marcus was present. He hadn't been able to locate Victoria, but he knew she would have to make an appearance to pay respects. "I was there too. I didn't want to attend. Sophia bribed me with $5 million, and I admitted my greed prevailed again. Here, in the public eye, my identity was restored. I was the son-in-law of the Sterling family. Victoria was on my arm, a perfect smile gracing her face. I was dressed in a custom tuxedo, appearing handsome and refined. To the outside world, we were the perfect couple, an ideal match. It was entirely an act. I was internally fuming but didn't dare reveal it. Victoria probably wasn't feeling too comfortable either. We paid our respects to the elderly gentleman, delivered our gifts and well wishes, exchanged brief pleasantries, and my obligation was fulfilled. The remainder of the evening was a banquet, entertainment, and gift bags upon departure. My plan was to maintain a low profile, acquire my complimentary items, and escape. Adrian, damn it. Marcus is here, Sophia hissed, locating me in a corner where I was stress-eating macarons. What's Victoria going to do? She was concerned Victoria would begin vomiting the instant she encountered him. I shrugged. She can't hide indefinitely. Eventually, you become accustomed to it. Sophia shot me a death glare and dragged me back toward Victoria. The woman was a machine. She was holding court with a group of female executives, laughing and conversing as though she didn't have a care in the world. Deals worth tens of millions were being casually finalized between sips of champagne. I could only observe in envy. I'd love to negotiate $1 billion transaction with her, but she wasn't interested in my proposals. Victoria despised being interrupted during business. I feared her, but Sophia didn't. She squeezed into the circle and whispered, "He's here. Should we leave early?" Victoria genuinely wanted to flee, but she couldn't. She was the CEO of Sterling Industries, responsible for the livelihoods of over 100,000 people. Tonight, she needed to finalize as many transactions as possible. It was her duty. Make sure Adrian stays close. If I'm going to be sick, I'm going to be sick on him. Sophia was speechless. Are you even human? Victoria offered a mysterious smile. You don't understand. He has unique preferences. Here's a check for $1 million. He won't even be upset. Sophia just stared. You two are a match made in hell. A couple of psychopaths. Marcus made his rounds, paid respects, then spotted Victoria. She was always the most radiant presence in any room. He had planned to approach her directly, but observing her deep in conversation, he stood back, waiting patiently. A smile played on his lips, his eyes displaying a mixture of adoration, pride, and a hint of derision, as though Victoria wasn't just his beloved, but also his most valuable asset. Then his gaze shifted, and he saw me. Adrian Cross. Marcus couldn't resist. He grabbed a glass of champagne and sauntered over. Adrian Cross. I'm Marcus Bennett. I pretended not to recognize him, offering a polite nod but remaining silent. We'd never actually met, after all. Several of Marcus's friends, all from the same privileged social sphere, gathered around, understanding exactly what he was attempting. One of them, an obnoxious individual named Preston, smiled. Mr. Sterling-in-law, your cuff is slightly wrinkled. Did the housekeeper miss a spot? I offered a thin smile, the little prick mocking me for being poor, attempting to humiliate me. Preston, I said calmly, the road back to the trailer park is long and winding. If you're not careful, you might just trip and fall. The atmosphere went silent. Preston's face turned pale. He sputtered, "That's bullshit. You're spreading lies." I simply smiled. Truth isn't determined by who shouts the loudest. Shouting just indicates you have something to conceal. Preston retreated, his face ashen. If that rumor circulated, it would be more than just social suicide for him. The remainder of his friends, observing him falter, quickly manufactured excuses and followed him, not even bothering to bid goodbye to Marcus. Marcus was furious. He hadn't anticipated me scattering his backup with a single sentence. He moved closer and, feigning an accident, knocked a glass of wine from a passing guest's hand. Terribly sorry, he said, not looking at the guest but at me. Mr. Cross, would you be kind enough to clean that up? I really must go have a conversation with Victoria. You wouldn't be so petty as to refuse assistance, would you? I maintained a smile plastered on my face while mentally visualizing myself punching him through a wall. He wanted me to clean up his mess while he approached my wife. The audacity. His intentions were venomous. If I bent down to clean it, I'd be performing the servant's role in front of everyone. I was representing the Sterling family. Every action reflected on them. I smiled sweetly and declined. I apologize. I'm unable to. My wife and I were trying for a baby during her fertile window several days ago. I strained something in my back. It's still bothering me. The guest whose wine had been spilled, a middle-aged man who had been lingering to observe the drama, burst out laughing. He gave me a thumbs up and departed. Marcus, who hadn't moved, stood there, his face turning purple. 3 words echoed in his mind: fertile window. What? He couldn't tolerate it anymore. He strode toward Victoria. When he was 3 steps away, he spread his arms wide, prepared for an embrace. Victoria, he said, his voice dripping with emotion. I've returned. But the moment Victoria saw him, her face went visibly pale. As he reached for her, she gagged. Vomiting at a formal event like this was a grave insult to the host. But I was prepared. I darted in front of her, holding a small decorative gift bag under her chin. Victoria was already the center of attention. Her retching instantly drew every eye in the room. We were all adults. We all understood what it meant when a woman suddenly became sick like that. Marcus knew too. He stared dumbfounded at the heaving Victoria, the words from that phone call at the airport screaming in his head. Victoria is experiencing morning sickness. She's pregnant. He stumbled back a step. He had spent 3 agonizing years performing the role of the devoted, faithful lover, only to return and discover this. He was supposed to conquer Sterling Industries and claim Victoria as his prize. But how could she be pregnant? Why? How? He was filled with white-hot rage, the urge to strike her, to harm that potential child, to murder her contract husband. But he had to maintain control. He forced a pained smile. Victoria, are you pregnant? I don't mind. As the words departed his mouth, he felt his own heart bleed. The agony of it. The crowd observed with a mixture of amusement and pity. Now that was genuine devotion. Even I had to acknowledge it. The men possessed nerves of steel. Sophia stepped forward, positioning herself in front of Victoria like a guard dog. What the hell are you talking about? Your mother's pregnant. Open your damn eyes and observe what's right in front of you. Victoria is sick because the sight of you is repulsive. If you possess any self-respect remaining, you'll leave immediately. Under the barrage of mocking, pitying, and curious stares, Marcus could only attempt to salvage his dignity. Victoria, you should rest. We'll talk another time. But she was still caught in a wave of physiological nausea, too sick to even acknowledge him. As Marcus beat a hasty retreat, Victoria slowly regained her composure. For a single fleeting instant, she felt profound sadness. Just several days ago, they had been exchanging affectionate words over the phone. Now, the mere sound of his name, let alone the sight of him, induced vomiting. That live stream was a permanent scar. Happy now, Adrian. You're a cruel man. I couldn't prevent a small triumphant chuckle before schooling my features. You can't attribute it all to me. You two somewhat deserved each other. Victoria appeared weak. She accepted the glass of water Sophia offered her but paused before drinking. You didn't drug this, did you? Sophia rolled her eyes. Ever since she drunkenly delivered her best friend to my bed, Victoria had been paranoid about anything Sophia handed her. Victoria, look at yourself. Do you genuinely believe I need to drug you in your current condition? You appear like a strong breeze could knock you over. Adrian could probably overpower you in 3 minutes. My jaw dropped. Sophia was a genuine legend. When she became angry, her language was unfiltered. Victoria flushed and sheepishly accepted the water. Okay. I drank it. A week passed after the gala. I hadn't contacted Victoria or Sophia. I had nothing occupying my time. I considered obtaining employment, but I understood I couldn't manage taking orders from a supervisor, especially since no employer would compensate me as generously as Victoria had. So I decided to become my own employer. I began creating TikTok content. I was from another world, after all. All the popular songs from my reality were unknown here. Plagiarism, here I come. I invested modest money, hired some producers, and recorded several tracks. Several days after uploading them, I was already a minor influencer. The royalties from the streaming platforms were surprisingly substantial. I never realized earning money could be this effortless. I'd never have to bow and scrape before Victoria again. As for Sophia, I was going to repay her with interest. I believed my prosperous days were here to remain. Then one night, I went to sleep in my apartment and woke somewhere else entirely. I was back in Victoria's villa, in her massive, soft, fragrant bed. It would have been perfect if my arms and legs weren't restrained to the bedposts. Okay, I admit it. I still shamelessly desired her. "You're awake, Adrian. Don't blame me for this," she said, her voice a low murmur. She was positioned on top of me, wearing only a silk nightgown. She had nothing underneath. I was completely naked. The morning sun was illuminating the world, and my body was responding to nature's call. "You've gotten so thin," I said, the words escaping before I could prevent them. "What are you doing?" Hearing my unconscious concern, a flicker of emotion crossed her face, but it didn't alter her resolve. "You," she said, and with that single word, she lowered herself onto me. I was speechless. What the hell was happening? This was unprecedented. Looking at Victoria's crimson-rimmed eyes and a single tear tracing a path down her cheek, I remained silent. It concluded in less than 3 minutes. Victoria separated from me, a confused and dissatisfied expression on her face. "So you're the 3-minute man. I have to tell Sophia about this." My face burned with humiliation. "Hey," I whispered. "It's a guy's first time too, you know." Her eyes brightened instantly. She leaned over and kissed me deeply, a genuine smile spreading across her face so radiant it lit up the dim room. "Well, then that's perfect. We're even now. Thanks for saving me the trouble." I wanted to cry. "Is that really how it works?" "Release me," I demanded. "It's my turn to be on top." Victoria considered it thoughtfully. Now that the act was complete, what harm could there be? If I tried to escape, she could simply have my legs broken. But she still wanted control. "I am Victoria Sterling," she declared firmly. I placated her. "I know. My empress. How about I teach you a few new techniques? They feel incredible." "Really? But this was your first time too." "It was. But I've had excellent teachers. Japanese instructors." "Fine. But if it doesn't feel good, I'm taking control again." This time, she agreed. After a 10-minute break, I asked her what was really going on. It turned out I'd created this situation myself. Victoria was suffering from a psychological disorder, and I was her remedy. Because of that live stream and Marcus, she'd developed a profound aversion to physical contact with other men. She'd consulted several therapists over the past week. Their consensus was clear: the only cure for a wound of the heart comes from the one who inflicted it. I was her cure because she wasn't repulsed by my touch. She didn't reject my body. As for why she needed to conceive, it was also my fault. The rumor had spread like wildfire through Chicago's elite circles: Victoria Sterling was pregnant. It was false, but too many influential figures wanted it to be true: her parents, the shareholders of Sterling Industries, their business partners. Gossip carried unstoppable power, and even Victoria couldn't combat it fully. She could deny it, but the company's stock would crash. In such unstable times, she couldn't risk that. Without Sterling Industries, her future looked bleak. Beyond that, she confessed she had feelings for me, though she wasn't sure of their depth. People from her world didn't grasp love or how to express it. All she knew was that she only wanted my children. 2 of them, one to carry the Sterling name, one to carry mine. Hearing that, I had no complaints. It was a role I was willing to embrace. What is love, anyway? Marriage was the deepest commitment. An idea formed in my mind. I could help heal her condition, but perhaps not entirely. Her aversion to other men was actually beneficial. But now she was becoming obsessive. A possessive partner might not stray, but she certainly wouldn't let me either. In a long marriage, could I truly remain faithful? Round 2. "Let's go," she said, undoing the restraints. "But first, 10 minutes of kissing. We need to do this several more times. I'm ovulating today." What could I say? My actions answered for me. For 3 days, we barely left the bedroom. Victoria visibly transformed, the gauntness in her face replaced by a healthy, vibrant glow. On the fourth day, when she entered her office, employees whispered in awe. The CEO had changed, she looked rejuvenated, alive. On that same fourth day, I finally emerged from the villa. My legs trembled, and I felt like a gust of wind could topple me. Dark circles under my eyes rivaled a panda's, but I had to reach the recording studio. My career couldn't pause. Meanwhile, Victoria faced serious threats. A letter had arrived from Marcus. He hadn't been idle that week, but she'd blocked his number, every social platform, and refused messages from mutual contacts. His emails went to spam, packages returned unopened. When he tried approaching in person, security kept him at least 100 yards away. So he resorted to a letter disguised as official business correspondence. He'd sent several, all ignored. Now he dropped the heartbroken lover act. His true nature emerged, he was issuing threats. 2 documents, one exposing how 5 years ago a Sterling Industries subsidiary had deliberately damaged and concealed an archaeological site during the Bayshore Heights development. The other revealed falsified soil toxicity reports for another major city project. Victoria stared at the files, motionless for hours. Marcus's threats were both laughable and terrifying. She knew he had allies in high places who could make them public. But she also knew his weaknesses. She burned the documents and called her legal team. Prepare countermeasures. Full audit of all projects from 5 years ago. And trace every connection Marcus Bennett has made since arriving in Chicago. Her mind raced. Adrian had warned her about the Bayshore Heights secret. Did he know more? Was he protecting her still? Days turned into a tense standoff. Marcus tried every tactic, leaked rumors to damage Sterling stock, anonymous tips to regulators, even attempts to bribe her executives. But Victoria was prepared. Her all-female security detail proved impenetrable. Her legal team buried him in countersuits. And publicly, she projected unbreakable strength. Privately, though, she craved Adrian's presence. Their nights together had awakened something fierce in her, a possessive hunger. She monitored his social media rise, smiling at his TikTok success. But when comments from female fans poured in, jealousy flared. She doubled his villa security, ensuring Northwest One got too close. One evening, as Adrian worked late in the studio, his phone buzzed with an unknown number. "Come to the villa. Now. We need to talk about our future." It was Victoria. He arrived to find her waiting in silk lingerie, a contract on the table, not divorce papers, but a new partnership agreement. Equal shares in Sterling Industries. "No more contracts," she said. "This time, it's real. Marry me properly. Give me those children. And never leave." Adrian hesitated, then signed. The obsessed CEO had won, but so had he. In this twisted world of power and revenge, they'd forged something unbreakable. Marcus's threats crumbled as evidence of his own scandals surfaced: London affairs, embezzlement schemes, ties to shady investors. He fled Chicago in disgrace, his empire dreams shattered. Sophia watched it all, shaking her head. "You two psychos deserve each other. But damn, it works." And so, in the glittering chaos of Chicago's elite, Adrian and Victoria built their empire, not as contract partners, but as equals consumed by each other. The end of one story became the beginning of their obsession.